Our heroine is a famous actress who's been acting for 15 years. So basically, the whole country knows her and loves her, even though her acting isn't that great. But looks-wise, she's stunning, and everyone envies her beauty. As for her intelligence, well, God help us, she's unbelievably dumb. Every few days, she gets herself into an even dumber situation than the last, thanks to that intelligence. People are constantly making her trend online, mocking her, and today was no different. Her company's CEO was furious, taking it out on her manager for letting her post silly things online. But when she showed up, he went quiet because she threatened that once her contract expires next month, she might sign with another company. So he backed off and had her manager take her to her new apartment. The manager agreed and tried to drive her there, but she snapped, "Do I look stupid? I can get there by myself." She refused his help and waited for the elevator on her own. Her manager was outside praying she wouldn't run into anyone and cause trouble. Unfortunately, she did. She saw a guy who seemed young and uninterested in her. Oddly enough, when she got into the elevator, she didn't even press a button. She sighed and asked, "All right, what do you want from me?" The guy was confused and said, "Excuse me?" She replied, "Hurry up, where do you want me to sign?" But he ignored her and walked out of the elevator. She chased after him, yelling at him, thinking he was following her or something, but then realized she was wrong. He was just her neighbor. She quickly apologized, but he wasn't having it. He told her to move away from his door so he could open it. She realized he was a jerk and went into her apartment. That night, she started singing at the top of her lungs, so loud that it kept him from sleeping. He came over to knock on her door, and when she opened it, he started lecturing her about the rules and regulations of the building, saying what she was doing was illegal. At first, she apologized, saying she didn't mean to be so loud and thought the building was soundproof. She even said sorry again. But he kept criticizing her, and since she was already stressed from all the online trolling and negative comments, she exploded on him. She kept asking him, "So you think I'm stupid too, huh?" and repeated all the insults people had been throwing at her. When he tried to keep talking, she thought he was about to apologize, so she cut him off, saying, "Hold on a second, no need to continue." Then she stormed back into her apartment. He was totally puzzled and still couldn't sleep because she cried all night and he could hear her. To be fair, she wasn't wrong because the building was soundproof. He shouldn't have been able to hear her. Unless, of course, he wasn't human. And, well, he wasn't. He's an alien, a Korean drama-style twist. Our male lead has been on Earth for 500 years, and he's got 3 months left before he returns to his planet. He hoped to spend them peacefully, but it seems like that won't happen because of her. The next day, the media was all over our heroine again, because she had enrolled in university but never attended classes, always making excuses about her work schedule, even though she sometimes had free time. Her agency's CEO convinced her to go back to university and start studying again. So she had to get ready, and at that moment, her friend, who had just returned from a trip, found out about all the news and rushed over to take her to university himself. When she arrived, everyone was waiting for her, amazed that she was even there. The girls were jealous of her beauty, and the guys just wanted to sit next to her, staring in awe until the professor walked in. And to her shock, guess who it was? Yep, her neighbor. Her manager was thrilled. "That's your neighbor, and now we can hook you up with good grades. Thank God you didn't cause a scene with him." To that, she responded, "No, I had time to make one." Throughout the entire lecture, she kept trying to laugh at everything he said, trying to flatter him. Reminds me of how I used to be as a student. Anyway, after the lecture, she rushed to him, asking for forgiveness and begging him to give her good grades since she's so busy. But it turned out he's the kind of guy with a strong conscience, completely unfazed by her fame or anything like that. She kept reminding him, but he walked out of the university. He went to meet his only friend, a lawyer who helps him with his paperwork. Every 10 years, they forge a new death certificate and birth certificate for him, allowing him to change his residence and everything else so no one gets suspicious. He told his friend that he needed a new death certificate in 3 months. The lawyer was surprised, as the 10 years hadn't passed yet. That's when he revealed that it looks like he's going back to his own world soon. The lawyer was genuinely upset, but couldn't help laughing when he heard about what happened with the actress. He couldn't believe he didn't recognize her, saying she's super famous. The guy shrugged, saying she's a shallow person, and he's not interested in girls anyway. Well, except for one particular girl he wanted to meet again. His friend asked who that girl was, so he told him the story. 12 years ago, while working as a doctor in a hospital, he witnessed a strange scene. a girl running across the street about to get hit by a car. What caught his attention was that this girl had the same features as the one he saw when he first arrived on Earth 500 years ago. He immediately ran to the scene, saved her, and then vanished. Meanwhile, at the same time, our heroine was having dinner with her friends. Suddenly, one of her friends heard a guy calling out to her, asking for her to be a witness. He was about to propose to someone right there, and she was furious because she had been in love with him for a long time. The problem? He was in love with our heroine, who quickly shut him down, saying, "My answer is the same as it was 12 years ago. No, I'm not marrying you." He asked why and if there was someone else. That's when her friend chimed in, reminding him that she still hung up on the guy who saved her 12 years ago. Of course, we don't need to say that our heroine is the same girl the guy saved. And now he's back, thinking about wanting to find that girl again. He steps out of his apartment and, surprise, there's the actress standing right in front of him. But he doesn't acknowledge her, just tries to go inside. She starts talking at him, annoyed that he wouldn't give her better grades, and later she gives him another sarcastic look before stepping out in front of the cameras. They were filming a special episode for a TV show, and she was talking about how her day went. She went on to brag that her beauty is all natural, while he was laughing to himself because he had overheard her that morning adjusting her makeup. The cameras kept rolling, and when they asked her about how she maintained her looks, she started listing the vitamins she takes. But then she messed up and accidentally called one of them a drug instead of a vitamin, confirming to everyone that she really is clueless. He kept laughing at her as they recorded her embarrassing herself over and over, with each situation worse than the one before. Later in his lecture, she handed in the assignment he had asked for. Everyone was impressed that she actually did it, not realizing that an expert had done it for her. Her manager had handed in the assignment for her and assured her that the professor wouldn't catch on. But before she could even settle in her seat, the professor realized that she had plagiarized the research. He asked her where she copied it from and in front of everyone gave her a 0. They filmed the whole thing and made her a laughingstock online. As he was leaving, he overheard their comments about her and got so angry that he broke a girl's phone with his strength. She, on the other hand, was deeply depressed and went to hang out at the cafe owned by a friend from school, crying while eating. She couldn't understand why people treated her one way to her face and another behind her back. Her friend tried to comfort her, saying, "That's just how people are." Having had such a terrible day, she kept drinking and drinking until she was completely wasted. Instead of unlocking her own apartment, she started trying to open his door. Meanwhile, he was inside watching the ridiculous scene unfold. He eventually got fed up and opened the door. When he told her that it was his apartment, she sarcastically responded, "Of course you're happy after embarrassing me again," and ran inside, crashing on his couch to sleep. He was shocked by her chaotic behavior. Then her phone rang, and he answered it. It was her friend calling, who freaked out when a man answered. But after explaining that he was her neighbor, the friend rushed over to pick her up. He demanded to see the guy's phone, worried he might have taken pictures of her or something. The guy was like, "Do you even know who she is? She's the most famous actress in Korea." The hero responded, "If she's that famous, how can I trust you'll actually protect her?" The guy was embarrassed but took her back to her apartment. The hero overheard him trying to get close to her, but she hit him on the head, which amused the hero greatly. As the guy left, he realized he had completely forgotten about his date with the other girl. She had called him earlier that day to celebrate her birthday, but of course he ditched her to be with the heroine. He called to apologize, and because she had been in love with him for a long time, she forgave him, but she was still hurt. The next day, while cleaning his house, the hero found the heroine's keychain that she had left behind. When he opened it, he was shocked to see a picture inside. The girl in the photo was the same one he had saved years ago. He freaked out and immediately rushed to find her. He asked her manager where she was, and he told him her location. At the time, she was getting her hair done and saw Yura, her rival in the industry, who she absolutely despised. As usual, Yura tried to provoke her, but our heroine had the upper hand and put her in her place. Yura got furious and started throwing things at her, even attempting to get physical. But the hero arrived just in time to stop her. She yelled at him, and in response, he smashed all the lights and dragged her outside. Then he showed her the picture and asked, "Who is this?" She snapped at him, furious that he had gone through her stuff. At that moment, he asked her, "Who are you?" She didn't understand what he meant until he explained that she looked like someone he once knew. She brushed it off, saying, "Oh, please, nowadays all women get plastic surgery to look like me." He then glanced down at her shoes and remembered a scene from his dreams. where a woman wearing those exact shoes was about to fall into the sea. He asked her if those were her shoes, to which she replied sarcastically, "Of course they're mine. Whose else would they be?" She then told him that they were a unique pair, the only ones in Korea. This confirmed to him that she was the one who would fall into the water, and he shared this revelation with his lawyer. Meanwhile, she told her friend about what happened, just as a group of new actresses entered the room. They greeted the heroine but completely ignored her friend. Our heroine, being polite, waited for her friend to leave before confronting the girls. She scolded them, telling them it was rude not to say hello, and gave them a piece of her mind. They were furious and started wishing for her downfall. And strangely enough, that very night she found herself on the verge of dying in her own home. She kept calling her manager, who finally answered, only to tell her that he was with his family and couldn't help. No matter how much she complained about her stomach pain, he dismissed it as stress. When he finally realized she was genuinely unwell, he offered to call her mother, but she refused and decided to handle it on her own. She started putting on makeup because, of course, she couldn't be seen in public looking anything less than perfect. At the same time, the hero overheard her and suspected that she might have appendicitis. He quickly got dressed and left his place just as she was stepping out of hers. When she asked him where he was headed, he said, "To the hospital." She replied, "Oh, thank goodness, take me with you." Once there, it was basically him who examined her, which left the doctors puzzled. They prepped her for surgery, and just before going in, she asked him to wait for her until she came out. He was about to leave but decided to stay and wait for her, listening to her request. After the surgery, he continued to take care of her. The next day, when the news got out, her friend rushed to visit her. No matter how much he insisted to the security that he was her boyfriend, they didn't believe him because he wasn't the only one visiting that day. Her fans had also gathered. So he said to them, "Didn't you say her manager is with her? Bring him. He knows me." He was then shocked to see the hero, as the heroine had told everyone at the hospital the previous day that the hero was her manager, to avoid any rumors. Her friend was furious when he saw the hero and kept trying to get in, but the security wouldn't let him, especially since the hero had told them to keep visitors away. He meant for them to kick him out. In the end, he managed to enter thanks to another friend of hers who had also come to visit. Once inside, her friend confronted her, asking why she hadn't called him and instead called her neighbor. He started thinking that he needed to live next to her so he could be around for situations like this. But when she realized he was about to give her a headache, she asked their friend to take him and leave. She then stayed with the hero. As she looked out the window, she noticed it was snowing. She gazed at the hero, deep in thought, which reminded him of the girl from the past who looked like her and also loved snow. She brought to mind poetry and books for him. He was about to say, "You know, they really do look alike," when he realized the snow made her think of all the food in the world, which made him realize she was a foodie. A little while later, her younger brother arrived to visit. As soon as he saw her, he wanted to leave, but she quickly asked him to stay, saying at least she could give him some money to help him get by instead of working. But he told her he had run away from home because of that money, and that their family was ruined because of it. Just as she was about to cry, their mother walked in, acting dramatic, with lots of cameras following her. She started putting on a whole show for the cameras, which made the heroine furious, and she kicked them all out. She began to recall how her father disappeared from their lives because her mother was greedy for her money. She realized that, unfortunately, her brother was right, not knowing that her father still cared about them deeply. As soon as he heard the news, he came to the hospital to check on her, but from a distance. The next day, it was time for her to be discharged from the hospital. They found everything except the shoe. This reminded her of what he had said about her shoe, so she called him to meet up and asked him about it. He sarcastically replied, "Are you stupid or what? Why would I take it?" But in reality, he had taken it and was hiding it, thinking that with the shoe gone, she would die. Little did he know, she kept searching for the shoe and eventually bought a new one, although it didn't quite fit. She called him again to mention that. While he was listening to her, a news report came on the TV, showing her attending the wedding of a famous actress and a wealthy businessman. The wedding was on a luxury yacht in the middle of the sea, which made him realize the vision he had seen would actually come true. The girl was going to die. He quickly told his lawyer friend, who immediately told him to rush and save her. However, he explained that he was hesitant because of a past experience when he tried to help a girl he had met when he first came to Earth, and everything was destroyed because of him. he went back home. But his curiosity got the better of him, so he turned on the TV and saw an interview with the heroine. She suddenly started talking about her first love, and he realized it was him. He was the one who had saved her. She expressed a desire to meet him again, which tugged at his heart. Feeling pity, he decided to save her. Meanwhile, she had arrived at the wedding, where her plan was to annoy her rival, Yura. The two caused quite a commotion until the heroine drank too much and nearly fell off the ship. Her friend noticed, but suddenly, the hero appeared, stopped time, and saved her. She then disappeared because he took her to a room inside and let her sleep. When she woke up and saw him, she thought she was dreaming, so she got closer to him, feeling safe, and fell back asleep. The hero, startled, quickly left. By this time, the wedding was over and the ship had returned to shore, but no one could find her. Her friend finally found her, took her out, and brought her home, where she slept deeply, exhausted from all the drinking. Unfortunately, the next day, the news broke that Yura had also gone missing, and they found her body in the sea. It seemed she had jumped. When people heard the news, they exaggerated the drama, claiming that Yura had taken her own life because of the hurtful things the heroine had said to her. They started spreading rumors about their fights, making it seem like the heroine was the one who started them, so they could bring her down. As a result, everyone turned against her. Meanwhile, she was still asleep, while her manager was freaking out outside her apartment due to the number of reporters trying to get to her. When she finally answered the phone, he told her that Yura had died and that she needed to escape. She quickly got dressed and left her apartment, but then stopped and asked, "Wait, why should I run? I had nothing to do with this." He told her, "Now's not the time for that, just get down here quickly." As she was about to take the elevator, he warned her, "No, they're coming up in it." He then suggested she take the emergency stairs, but quickly changed his mind, saying, "No, they're coming up those too." She thought about returning to her apartment, but just at that moment, she realized she had forgotten the passcode. Luckily, the hero opened his door right at that moment, so she quickly jumped into his apartment without his consent and locked the door behind her. The reporters soon flooded the area, and she could hear them from inside, feeling terrified. What made it worse was when the hero told her to leave his house. She tried giving him puppy eyes, which softened him up, so he let her stay. Not only that, but when he found out she was hungry, he went out to get her food. While he was gone, she wandered around his apartment and found a large library. She entered and saw his journal. On the last page, she found a note saying, "The last 3 months here." She couldn't figure out what that meant. Just then, he returned and yelled at her for entering that room. He gave her the food and kicked her out. She sat outside, eating with him next to her. He then asked if she had really hurt the actress, Yura. She told him that Yura would never hurt herself, even if she had been the one to hurt her. She started crying because it saddened her that Yura died at such a young age, especially since she was planning to get married soon. The hero began to feel sorry for her, realizing how innocent she really was. Later, while they were having their coffee on the balcony, she started acting full of herself again. She told him that she moved here specifically to look at that billboard, the most expensive one in Korea. He just laughed at her arrogance. The next day, when he woke up, he found her making a mess, so he started cleaning up around her. She hit him, and they ended up wrestling with each other until the lawyer showed up. The hero immediately acted like the lawyer was his father in front of her, so she became all polite and welcoming. The lawyer was surprised to see her with the hero, but was really happy about it, especially when she insisted he stay and eat with them. She even made him run errands for her, like getting shoes, which he did. On his way back, he saw them taking down her billboard picture. Every time she tried to go to the balcony, he would stop her, which really frustrated her. So she decided to go outside to the reporters, but she got hurt in the process. He immediately ran to the pharmacy, bought medicine, and treated her injury. After that, he let her leave because the reporters had gone. This was because Yura's sister found her will, and the whole issue was resolved. There was no longer a need to interview the heroine. However, they still turned the situation against her, blaming her for everything. When she went to her agency afterward, she found out that companies were canceling contracts with them, so she pretended like she didn't want to work for them anymore. But no matter where she went, the same thing kept happening. By the end of the day, she returned home, exhausted from everything that had happened. To her surprise, her friend's brother called her, which shocked her because he wanted to visit her. She let him in, but during that time, the hero saw him in the parking garage heading to her apartment. He immediately recognized him from the time he had saved her on the ship. He had caught a glimpse of him talking to his assistant, asking if he had taken care of it, and the assistant replied that he had. The hero didn't understand what they were talking about at the time, but he sensed that the guy was dangerous. He was about to stop him when a detective approached him about the same case. While reviewing the security footage from the ship, they had noticed that the guy had appeared and disappeared out of nowhere, which raised suspicions because he wasn't someone who had been invited to the event. The hero first went with the detective but soon became worried and rushed to the heroine, who was talking with the guy at that moment. She said to him, "My condolences." When he asked her what for, she replied, "For Yura's death." She said, "I knew very well that you two were together." He was terrified and asked her how she found out. She told him that while she was in the bathroom on the ship, she overheard him and Yura talking. Afterward, Yura came in and bragged about how she was going to marry him, the older brother, because his younger brother had feelings for her. He replied, "Oh, you told me this before." Then out of nowhere, his brother walked in and was shocked to find him there. He asked him what he was doing, and he quickly made up an excuse, saying he was just nearby and ran into her by chance. He said goodbye and left, leaving the other guy with her. Just then, there was a knock on the door. He thought his brother had come back, but when he opened it, it was the hero standing there. Before the other guy could even ask him what he was doing there, the hero kicked him out and entered the apartment. He was clearly worried about her, which surprised her, especially when he kept asking if she was okay. Suddenly, he yelled at her for letting men into her house, and she replied, "What do you mean? Get out!" She slammed the door in both their faces. Her friend then took the other guy downstairs and asked if he was renting the apartment or if he owned it. He even offered to buy it from him so he could be closer to the love of his life. He went on to say they were going to get together soon, and that he was the right man for her, boasting about how they'd known each other for over 15 years. This irritated the hero, so he casually mentioned that he had just been at her place to return her hair clip, which she had left at his house. The other guy snapped back, "Don't tell me she got drunk and came to your place again." The hero, not one to back down, responded, "No, my friend, she was completely sober," and left him fuming with jealousy. The next day, the heroine went to her agency and found her mother arguing with the manager, accusing him of being exploitative and refusing to renew her daughter's contract because of the incident with Yura. She immediately told the manager that she was the one refusing to renew the contract and stormed out with her mother. Outside, she ran into her friend, who was there with her own mother to sign the contract for the lead role in the latest drama. The heroine told her, "Good for you, sign it. I can't do it anymore. If you take it, I'll be happy for you." Her friend started acting all modest, saying it wouldn't be right and that she had already declined the offer. The heroine told her to go ahead and accept it. As she walked away, she sarcastically said to her friend's mom, "How are you wearing heels? Didn't you just break your leg?" Then she left, looking back at her friend, who was deeply embarrassed. The reason her friend was so humiliated? The day before, while they were having dinner, the friend had suddenly left, claiming her mom had called her and needed her urgently. In reality, it was the director who called, and she had accepted his offer right away. But the friend was addicted to lying. After all this, the heroine told her mother, "See how much she hates me. She never liked me." Later, when she got home, she found a juice waiting outside with a note reminding her about an important exam that day. She quickly got ready and tried not to draw any attention. But as soon as she reached the university, a reporter who had been following her all along deliberately hit her car, forcing her to stop so he could take pictures. She tried to hide, but she couldn't, and soon everyone knew where she was and surrounded her. She stayed hidden inside her car, terrified. The hero heard about what was happening and quickly went to her. He told the reporters that he was her lawyer and warned them that what they were doing was illegal. Then he told her to get out of the car and assured her that she had nothing to be afraid of because she hadn't done anything wrong. She came out, and he grabbed her hand, leading her away. He even broke their cameras to stop them from getting pictures. But instead of taking her to her exam, which had already ended, he brought her to the university's museum, where most of the items had been donated by him, including the hairpin that once belonged to the girl who died protecting him. He had given it to her a long time ago. As soon as the heroine saw the pin, she felt her heart ache. The strange part was, she had never liked playing historical roles. Especially during a certain period, she hated it so much but didn't know why. This puzzled him a lot. Later, he took her to an amusement park to drop her off since her friend had invited her there to celebrate her birthday. Her friend was really excited, preparing a surprise for her. But as soon as he saw the hero, he got upset, especially when she suggested they all celebrate together. He quickly declined, telling the hero to leave, and took her to ride one of the attractions. While they were on the ride, she started reminiscing about how she used to ride it with her dad when she was younger and how much she loved it. Taking advantage of the emotional moment, her friend proposed to her, promising to take care of her for the rest of his life. Just as she was about to give her answer, the jealous hero, who had been watching, left the scene, not wanting to hear her response and risk getting hurt. When time seemed to resume, she told her friend no, but she admitted that for a second she was going to say yes, but something made her change her mind. He was thrilled that she almost agreed, giving him a bit of hope. Later, when the hero found out that she had turned down the proposal, he was overjoyed. She then introduced him to her family as her manager, and he was confused, saying, "What? I didn't agree to that." She just shrugged and said, "But you will, so no big deal." The next day, the hero went to the investigators for the case, and they asked how he had managed to attend the party without an invitation. He replied, "Yeah, how could I have even gone to that party? It was in the middle of the ocean. I was with a friend until midnight and only got home then. How could I have made it there and back in just 30 minutes? They reviewed the security footage and found he was telling the truth, but they still felt something was off about the whole situation. When he got home, he found out that the heroine had ordered a ton of food to his place, which made him furious. But she forced him to sit down and eat with her. During their meal, she talked about her show, the one her friend had taken the lead role in. She commented on her friend's acting, saying the ratings must be terrible, but it was the complete opposite. Her friend's performance had actually boosted the show's success, giving her new confidence. The next day, when they bumped into each other by chance, her friend was full of herself, rubbing it in that the heroine had lost everything and gloating that she had been waiting for this moment her whole life. The heroine was shocked and asked if she had ever treated her like a real friend. The cruel friend coldly responded, "I don't even know you." The heroine smiled and said she was glad she finally saw her true colors, then left. As she was walking out, she looked at the person who had dropped her off and was still waiting for her in the car. But suddenly, someone threw a glass bottle at her from above. In an instant, he ran to save her. Her friend saw him and was shocked, realizing that he was the same person who had saved the heroine 12 years ago during the car accident. She had been there at the time as well, and had even captured the event on her camera. She was terrified. Meanwhile, the heroine was taken to the hospital for a checkup, and the hero left to meet with the police. He found out that the guy had been chasing Yura, and after her death, he began to hate the heroine. He kept sending her things to upset her. The hero then remembered the big teddy bear from the heroine's house and accidentally discovered the camera inside it. He asked if he had sent her the things, and the person replied no. He was immediately concerned for her and rushed back to the hospital, only to find she had been kidnapped. He listened carefully, trying to figure out where she was. They had taken her up a mountain, planning to flip her car. When she regained consciousness, she found herself driving, unable to stop the car. She screamed and called out to him for help. He arrived just in time to stop the car with his hands. She was terrified and got out to check, but he had disappeared. She thought it was all in her head. Her friend called her and she told him to hurry. He came and took her back to the hospital. There, she saw the hero again and asked him where he had been and if he had come to her. He replied, "Where were you? I was at the police station the whole time." When they got home, he treated his injuries while she was dropped off by her friend. As soon as she was about to enter her house alone, she screamed because she saw the warning sign. Someone had broken into her house. Quickly, the hero rushed over and told her to stay with him for a while. When she noticed his wounded hand, she asked what had happened. He responded, "It's none of your business." She lay down to sleep on his bed, feeling sorry for him, and he decided to let her have it this time while he slept on the couch. The next morning, when she woke up, she found her shoes missing, and she confronted him, joking, "So you're pretending to be all noble and clean, but you're actually a thief." He quickly deflected the topic, knowing she was upset. After they finished eating, she got up to clean the plate, joking that she was really into cleanliness. Just as she was about to wash the plate, it broke before reaching the sink. He was devastated because it was a priceless antique, around 400 years old. She casually said it was probably better that it broke because it looked really old. After that, she tried to clean the rest of his house, but in the process, she accidentally broke another item. He grabbed her and said, "Please, enough with the cleaning. She had to stop. Later, she went to her friend at the library and told her how she had seen the hero save her again, holding her hand and stopping the car. Her friend said that now she really needed to get checked out. The heroine replied, "I already went, and the doctor said it's all in my head, that I'm doing this to rely on him. But he also warned me that depending on him might cause trouble for both of us, and I could be a burden to him." And so, after returning home, the hero tried to talk to her. She told him, "What can I say? I'm an independent woman, and I won't rely on you for anything." She then told him that she had an appointment with her friend. He got upset and asked if she would be late. She responded, "None of your business." She went to meet her friend, and his brother was also there. She talked with him about how Yura didn't seem to have committed suicide, as she had found Yura's bag at the wedding and kept it with her. By chance, she saw what was inside and found a flash drive. When she played it, Yura was seen meeting a woman at the hospital. The hero immediately asked her, "Do you think you could tell me where the flash drive is? I might be able to investigate the matter." She sadly replied that she had lost it. It turned out that the hero had taken it from her to protect her. When the hero returned home, he found her there, upset because he had told her the day before that she wasn't an attractive woman to him. She was just like anyone else. She began boasting in front of him, claiming that her title as Queen of 15 Seconds meant she could charm anyone in that time. Just as he was about to tell her to stop being ridiculous, she forced him to sit down and started using a timer, acting cute. If I were in his place, I would have liked her. But he stayed calm in front of her, holding back. At one point, she almost gave up, but then he got closer to her. After that, neither of them could sleep, especially him. His heart rate and body temperature increased. She tried to help him, asking her friend what she should do. Her friend suggested, "The best thing, dear, is to put cold compresses on his body." So she decided to take off his clothes and apply them. But when she got closer, he stopped her and told her to leave. She continued to apply the cold compresses, wrapped herself in a blanket, and fell asleep in the room with him. Later, when he woke up in the middle of the night and saw her like that, he was startled at first. Then he realized she was shivering and kicked her out of the room. The next day, the lawyer came and took her out, and she was fine. At that point, he kept asking what had made him so sick, but he was too embarrassed to say. The man noticed and figured it out on his own. He kept asking if there was a way to keep her safe from harm once he was gone. That night, he went to bed feeling sad. When he woke up a little, the heroine was by his side, trying to comfort him. She told him how much she missed her father and how he had treated her badly in the past. It turned out that her father had been very rich, which was why her mother had married him. She and her younger brother were born, but after a while his business failed, and he became just an ordinary man. Her mother began to belittle her and her work, taking advantage of her. Eventually, her mother wanted to separate and take the heroine while leaving her brother with the father. The hero understood why she was doing this and said, "You want to take the boy and leave the girl because she earns money. Well, I want to take her too." Naturally, a young girl wouldn't understand this, and she thought her father was exploiting her like her mother. So she ran out in distress, almost repeating the same act that had once saved her. Later, she told him, "When I grew up, I understood that he was protecting me from my mother's exploitation. But unfortunately, I understood that too late." While he was listening to her, he heard her friend's brother searching for her in his apartment. He had also tried to call her. Quickly, her phone slipped from her hand, and she ran outside to meet the guy. He asked him what he was doing there, and the guy said he was just checking on her. The hero told him to stop what he was doing. At that point, the guy realized that the hero knew the truth. He immediately said, "So you're the one with my flash drive. Give it to me and you and the heroine will be safe. I won't mess with you." He then slammed the elevator shut. But when he opened it on the first floor, he was shocked to find the hero waiting for him. He was surprised because there was no way the hero could have made it down 23 floors that quickly. The hero told him, "Stay away from us, or I'll show you who you're really messing with." The next day, Sumi stopped him suddenly. She also recognized him and started acting like she was weak in front of him, saying she was the heroine's friend. When the heroine found out that he had seen her, she got upset. She couldn't stand him, and he kept asking her why. "She's your friend, girl. You're going to end up all alone if you keep this up," he said. She replied, "Who's alone? I'm not." He responded, "Well, you're here with me and no one else seems to care about you." That really upset her. At the same time, her friend, after meeting the hero, was convinced he was the same person who had saved the heroine 12 years ago. She went to tell the guy she liked about it, but asked him not to tell the heroine. She then confessed her feelings to him, but he apologized and said he loved the heroine, not her. However, curiosity got the better of him, and he wanted to know who the guy was. When she showed him the picture, he realized it was the hero himself. He was shocked because the hero looked exactly the same, and he rushed to tell the heroine to stay away from him. He even offered to take her to his family's villa, far away, so she would be safe. She agreed because she was really upset with him, so he waited for her downstairs. He saw the hero approaching and immediately asked him about what happened 12 years ago and how he still looked the same. The hero quickly denied it, saying that he had seen things wrong. At that exact moment, the heroine was packing her things from his apartment when, by chance, she noticed her car's glass in the basket. At that moment, she was sure he had come and saved her. She immediately decided to confront him, but he denied it again. She then decided not to leave and asked her friend to drop her off at her friend's place to stay the night. She waited, hoping he would reach out and check on her, but of course he didn't bother. She was extremely upset with him. The next day, when she returned home, she found her friend installing cameras everywhere in the apartment. He also called her mother and brother, who decided to stay with her. She agreed, and her mother was sent away. Shortly after, she received a message from her landlord saying that the rent was overdue. She tried to take out a loan, but they refused. She even tried to sell her bags, but the man told her that no one would buy them if they knew they were hers. He then kicked her out and told her never to come back, so she was forced to sell them online. She posted the bags on a website and left the hero's number in the description so that no one would contact her directly. So every now and then, he would get a message from someone asking about the bags, which confused him. He asked her about it, and she coldly replied, "Don't lower the price." She then told him that she needed him to come with her to her company the next day, because they had been fined and swindled. When he asked why she needed him, she said it was so no one would see her alone. He felt sorry for her and agreed to go with her. They entered the company, and she managed to get her money back from the manager. As they were leaving, they bumped into that annoying woman who kept trying to be sweet in front of him. The heroine was shocked by how much flattery there was. He was upset because of the way his friend was treating her. While they were sitting, her friend's assistant accidentally spilled coffee on all of them. At that moment, her friends rushed to help, but when it came to her, they completely ignored her. She was upset, but even more so when she saw her friend drying her hand from the coffee while casually letting the guy touch her. On the way back, she told him, "So why did you seem so bothered when people touched you? You were fine just now." She forgot that he had given her his jacket and walked with her in front of the other girl, who was now very jealous. Later, when her brother, the investigator working on the Yura case, told her that it might be a murder and not suicide, she became extremely upset. She felt that people would start to like the heroine again, but she was also angry because Yura had lied. When he asked if Yura was seeing anyone since the investigations revealed she was pregnant, she responded, "I don't know." However, she had heard the heroine ask her brother about the ship earlier. When she returned home, the heroine found food left for her. She immediately told her brother to take it to the hero, hoping to start a conversation with him. But when he didn't respond, she decided to go to him herself to collect the food. She went in a very simple outfit, and when he left her outside, she noticed she had entered the password and walked in casually. She saw him typing and was encouraged by this. When she got scared, she said to him, "Don't change it, forget it." He handed her the food and asked her to leave. She kept wondering why she was acting this way with him and finally realized something important. She was in love with him. So she immediately confessed her feelings. He didn't say anything, and she was shocked. He didn't speak at all until nightfall. The next day, she went to his house to ask what his response was, but he wasn't there. At that moment, he had contacted the investigator, who was Sumi's brother, to give him the flash drive that contained a video of the guy with Yura. In the video, they were discussing their secret relationship and his ex-wife, who he had locked up in a mental hospital. Yura had found out her location and went to talk to her. The hero took the flash drive and went to meet with the officer. To his surprise, the investigator was hit on the head and taken to the hospital. The strange part was that the hero saw the same guy there, as if he was telling him, "Yes, I did this to him." The hero chased him, and the guy led him to an empty place, pulling out a tranquilizer gun, intending to shoot him. Each time he tried to hit him, the hero managed to evade him. In the end, when the hero was terrified, the guy knocked him out with the tranquilizer. The hero then tried to return to his home, where the heroine was. She saw in the mirror a man coming from behind her to hurt her. Quickly, she pretended her phone rang, answered, and said she was in the apartment and leaving so he wouldn't hurt her. He went back and hid. She left the apartment, ran to her place, and asked her brother to call the police immediately. Just as her brother was about to open the door, she heard a knock. She noticed the voice sounded like the same doctor who had drugged her before and kidnapped her from the hospital. So she immediately stopped her brother from opening the door, ensuring the man was not from the police. After the man left, the hero arrived to check on her, ensuring she was okay. But he fainted. She took him to her bed and stayed beside him to take care of him. When he woke up, he wanted to leave quickly without even eating the breakfast she had made for him. She went out to check on him and found the troublesome woman there, wanting to talk about her brother. She told her to be gentle with him since he was sick. The woman smiled in an irritating way, entered with him, and started talking to him about her brother. At that moment, the hero started apologizing to her. It seemed like her brother got hurt because of him. When he went to drop her off, he heard how jealous the heroine was of him, which made him laugh. When he left, he found she had left her house and he thought it was just a coincidence. When he found out he was going to the supermarket, she told him to wait for her, and that she would come with him, of course, not without her. At the supermarket, she stayed close to him and kept trying to make him eat. They were completely different when it came to food preferences. He liked the breast, while she was more of a thigh person. She joked that they wouldn't be fighting over food for the rest of their lives. He responded, "Who said I'll stay with you for the rest of your life?" They didn't talk much after that. The next day, when she saw him going to fish, she decided to go with him. She really enjoyed the place and played around, feeling happy. But suddenly he started shouting at her and rejecting her. He said he thought her silence meant she would understand he didn't want to talk to her, but she turned out to have no self-respect. She felt humiliated and cried, leaving quickly. And she walked away, wounded. But then, the hero called her friend to come take her home because he was concerned about her. Her friend came, found her crying, and she finally said, "I'm sorry, I finally felt for you." He just laughed at what she said. He took her home and waited for the hero to come, thanking him for calling her today but asking him to stay away from the heroine. Because he's hurting her, he told him, "Don't act like a man just for the sake of it. Go protect the heroine from your older brother, then come talk to me." He was confused, wondering what the heroine had to do with his brother. Meanwhile, she went home and spent the whole night crying and shouting, asking how he couldn't love her. The silly girl went to him wearing slippers and told him, "You used to love her. Take her and keep our memories together." Then she realized how much she hated what she'd just done. At the same time, her friend had gone to see Sumi. He told her he didn't want to be friends anymore, to make it easier for her to forget him because he would never be with her. He loved the heroine. This upset her greatly. She went to the heroine and told her she knew very well who the person was that saved her, and that she wanted to meet him. She also hinted that he was around her, but she hadn't noticed him. The heroine surprised her by saying she didn't want to tell her who he was. She would find out on her own at the right time. Finally, she understood the heroine was in love with her friend, and that's why she had hated him all this time. Sumi had loved the guy before. She had asked to meet him at school, thinking he would confess his feelings for her. But instead, he loved the heroine, so she hated him from that moment on. After this, she left. The heroine got worried because the hero wasn't answering her. She decided to go to his apartment, and when she got there, she saw blood on the door. She rushed inside and found him lying on the floor. She was about to call an ambulance, but he told her not to. She called the lawyer, who she thought of as a father figure. He hinted that this happened because of her, and that his life had been calm until she came into it and ruined everything. She felt guilty and left, embarrassed to face him. The lawyer had seen her and felt bad for her, but at the same time, the hero was truly suffering because of her. This time, he was trying to catch the killer. He called the lawyer and told him he would give him the flash drive. But then he saw the car coming toward him. He tried to stop it with his abilities, but unfortunately, they didn't work at that moment, and he was hit. They also took the flash drive from him. Poor guy. He was dreaming of them, married and living together. But when he woke up, it turned into a nightmare because he imagined her with his friend instead of him. He was so angry. To get away from all of this, he decided to sell the apartment. People started coming and they were interested in buying it. But as soon as his friend heard about it, She started scaring people away, saying there were problems in the building, no air conditioning, bad management, and even the garage was far away. She scared everyone off so she could stay close to him. Suddenly, the police came to ask her about the accident in Yura. She told them what she saw on the ship and mentioned that Yura had been involved with her friend's brother. They went to ask him, and he realized she told them because she was the only one who knew about his relationship with Yura. So now he was planning to get rid of her. At the same time, the hero had the same plan. He wanted her to hate him so she would stay away and get over him once he disappeared. So he started thinking about how to make that happen. He realized that in the past, whenever someone told him the truth, he would get terrified and run away. So he decided that this would be his plan. He told her, "Get yourself ready for what's coming." He then took her to the university and showed her a pin, saying, "This pin was my gift to the first girl I ever met." She responded, "Come on, stop with the jokes. That was over 400 years ago, man." He replied, "I know because I'm over 500 years old. I even came from space." When she didn't believe him, he started using his abilities in front of her, telling her that he had saved her with those powers 12 years ago during the car accident. She began to panic, but then left in disbelief. He saw her yelling at the sky, still not believing that he was an alien. To make sure, she kept testing him all day. She even went to his university and kept asking him, "If you're an alien, fly in front of me." He regretted the day he thought of confessing anything because everything backfired and she got even closer. When he couldn't figure out how to stop her, he took the chance and said, "Let's go eat together." He took her to a restaurant he loved, and they both enjoyed it. Afterward, they went for a walk by the sea, and at that moment, she brought up the girl from 400 years ago, asking, "So I'm like the girl from back then?" He said, "Yes." She asked, "Is that why you paid attention to me? Because I'm like her?" He replied, "Yes, but I've never cared about her for herself." She got upset and started crying. When they returned together, she ran into her apartment, feeling down. She spent the next few days crying and only stopped when her friend visited her. He had started to suspect his brother because of what the hero had said. He came to ask her if she knew anything about why his brother was interested in her lately. His brother was also planning to make a deal with her. She told him she didn't know anything but mentioned that his brother had been involved with Yura. This made him even more suspicious. The next day, she went to the university and found old photos of the founders from many years ago, including one with the hero himself. She quickly believed it and hid the photo from everyone. She also wrote him a note, saying that his picture was in the museum, and if someone noticed it, they might discover the truth. He laughed at her move, but went ahead and took the photo from the museum. Since he was going to disappear anyway, he decided to sacrifice himself. He made a deal with the killer, her friend's brother, to surrender to the police and take the blame for Yura's death on his behalf. Of course, this was in exchange for him staying away from the heroine. The brother agreed, and he really did surrender himself. At that time, the heroine was on set, and she noticed how badly they were treating her. There wasn't even a chair for her, unlike Sumi, who was treated like a queen. They mocked her, but she couldn't keep up the act for long. Her friend brought many cars filled with food and equipment for the heroine and everyone else. He said it was on the heroine's behalf, which made everyone happy to see her. Her mother too was proud and felt her dignity had been restored in front of Sumi. Later, the heroine went to say goodbye before her scene was filmed. It was an action scene, and she was supposed to jump from a great height. She insisted on doing it and jumped, and the scene was very good until suddenly the rope came loose. Everyone panicked because she was about to fall. She was quickly taken to the hospital, and the news became a trending topic. The officers who were investigating the hero at that time heard the news, and as soon as the hero found out, he disappeared from the interrogation room. He moved to the killer's company and threatened him with death, very angry. The killer then told him that if he killed him, the heroine would also die. He was scared for her, so he left after frightening him. Later, the heroine noticed a man by her side and assumed it was her father since she had seen him watching her from afar several times. The man found out about the news from people and rushed to the hospital to check on her. After confirming she was okay, he was about to leave, but the hero told him that his daughter always waits for him to come. She would be very happy if he stayed with her. When she woke up and saw her father beside her, she began crying tears of joy. He finally returned and she started asking him if he had remarried. He told her no, that her mother had made him give up on marriage. She was standing outside, overhearing, and was genuinely happy. The hero went back to the investigators and told them he had lied and hadn't done anything at all. He didn't know Yura, and he revealed the real killer, her friend's brother, who had actually liked her. He gave them the flash drive with the videos that were on the first one, and they discovered her pictures. At that point, they tried to summon him for questioning, but of course, the killer denied everything and even complained to his father. The detective found himself transferred to another location and realized there was something wrong. Meanwhile, our heroine felt guilty because she was scared, and her friend was still unconscious. She spent the whole time checking on him. During this, she met that awful brother of his, and he asked if she had told anyone besides the investigators that he was connected to Yura. She told him yes, she had told his brother. So now, the brother wanted to get rid of her too. One day, he entered her room alone, and there he found the hero. He started talking with him, saying that if he cooperated with the investigators, he would kill his beloved. At that point, the hero was helpless, trying to convince him to stop. So he wasn't just hurting the heroine this time, but also his brother. However, the brother didn't care. And to his shock, he was awake and heard everything. He was stunned and scared by what his brother said. So when he finally woke up, he pretended to have amnesia. Whenever asked anything, he claimed he didn't remember. And eventually, the foolish brother believed him. Since the moment the heroine left the hospital, she had noticed how much the hero cared about her. She felt upset because he had rejected her before, so why was he interested now? She kept asking him to ignore her, and he played along, pretending to be her manager, even accompanying her to her work. She told him to leave her alone, but then she saw how they were treating her badly. They called her to come early, even though her scene was later at night. When they canceled the shoot early, no one called her, so she was left alone and confused. When she woke up, she saw everyone had left, and she was in shock over how they had treated her. Then she saw the hero in front of her, and she told him she wasn't going to return with him. She started yelling at him, saying he should stick to his word, and that he hated her and wasn't interested, so he should stop being selfish. She walked away to distance herself from him. At that moment, he used his powers, lighting up the whole place, and even made her float towards him. She was startled, and even more so when he got closer and told her she was being selfish. But she quickly pushed him away and kept teasing him. He was tired, and she asked why she even bothered getting closer to him in the first place. She picked him up, took him to the car, and drove him back to his place. She was so happy because it confirmed that he loved her. She kept asking him if he loved her for her own sake, or because she resembled the girl from the past. He told her it was for her, and she was overjoyed. But neither the hero nor his little brother was happy. The next day, when she didn't show up, the little brother called her and asked where she was. She lied and told him she had been at a shoot and was just leaving the garage for home. But he was already waiting for her outside the hero's apartment, and he confronted her, shouting, "Help me!" He kept telling her that he didn't know how to raise her, even though he was actually younger than her. Not only that, but he also went to visit the hero to scold him. However, when he found the hero there, he realized just how much he was interested in space exploration, and that made him like him a lot. He even told him he was a loss for his sister. She herself started feeling the same way, especially when she asked him if his face would always stay like that. When she found out he would never grow up, she tried to make herself smaller, but they both became scared of her actions. The next day, he took her to the shoot. She was so happy to be with him, but the director was difficult and made her redo the scene more than 9 times. In the end, she preferred the first take. So the hero went to the shoot location to see how much he was exhausting her. Then they stayed together waiting for her next scene. To pass the time, she started playing with the people, and she kept winning easily because before she threw her cards, he would stop time each time and change the cards. So she won every time. She was so happy and told him she was glad because now people weren't treating her like a star anymore. She kept asking him what they would do in their future together and said a lot of things. He asked her, "What do you think? Should we do all of them? Or in general, for this month?" She asked him why, what was special about it. That's when she remembered he had written that after 3 months he would leave. 2 months had passed, and only 1 was left. She then told him it was okay, he'd come back again. She was shocked when he said that he was leaving forever. She was so upset and kept yelling at him, calling him selfish. He, on the other hand, was crying because he was sad about leaving her as well. Naturally, she ran off quickly, crying. She went to Sumi's car and asked them to take her with them. She spent the whole journey playing sad songs. The next day, he only realized what happened when he heard her running out and quickly tried to talk to her. But she ignored him. He kept running after her, then a girl called him. She was a student of his from the previous year. She had told him before that he looked like her ex-boyfriend, Sandong. She introduced herself as Hami. She still liked him and even asked for his number. But before he could give it to her, the girl intervened and took him away. She asked him, "Didn't I tell you to stay away from me?" and told him that if that was the case, he should stay away so she could get over him quickly. He walked away, completely depressed by what had happened. He started drinking and using his abilities randomly, even transporting himself into her room. She was surprised to see him, but then she let him sleep next to her. The next morning, she teased him and asked why he had appeared in her room. While they were talking, her mother suddenly tried to enter the room. She quickly told him to teleport to another place. But of course, his powers weren't working at that moment, so he had to jump from her balcony to his own. She mocked him, saying he was useless, but later on, she reconsidered. That night, she was talking in her room, and she said to him that she was sure he could hear her. Since there was only 1 month left, they had to spend it together. He agreed, and they went out together and spent the entire day happily. Meanwhile, her friend was searching for his brother. They found a mental health hospital and kept calling her there. Once, they called and he answered. He heard his brother pleading to be released, saying he wasn't crazy. This made him realize something was wrong, so he went to look for her there. When he couldn't find her, he agreed with the investigators to search the place. His brother's men moved his ex-wife to a different location, but he had made a deal with the hero to help him take her from them. His brother and the investigators accused him of keeping his ex-wife locked in the hospital for 7 years, which he denied and went to complain to his father. His father yelled at his younger son for doing such a thing to his older brother, and was so furious that he disowned him. Meanwhile, the girl was looking for the hero and thought he had disappeared. She ran around like crazy searching for him. When he saw her, he felt bad for her and told her that he wasn't going anywhere as long as she was holding on to him. She was overjoyed. They started planning their future together. Things got more serious, and she even went to try on a wedding dress. He went to meet her father along with her brother, and they all drank together. After all, he was her protector now. After they finished, he decided to use his powers. Her brother discovered the truth at that moment, and was more impressed by him than ever before. The next morning, he decided to take her out, with romantic gifts in hand. But he got shy and decided to stop time, ruining all the gifts. He acted like a normal day, thinking he had to do something romantic, but just his presence was enough to make her happy. On the way back, though, she was surprised when he told her to go ahead to his house because he had something to do. He had called his friend earlier. When he got there, he found his friend crying and devastated. He asked him what happened, and his friend explained that his older brother had always kept a notebook, recording everything, even his death. It turned out the murderer was the middle brother, who had always envied the oldest brother because he was in charge of the company. So he decided to kill him. He poisoned the juice and made the younger brother take it to him. Unfortunately, the younger brother drank it and started to feel unwell. The middle brother, who had done this, came in, laughing at him as he was dying. He confessed that it was him, just to get rid of him. The younger brother tried to escape in his car, hoping to reach the hospital, but he couldn't make it and died on the way. The incident was recorded as an accident. Hearing all of this, the younger brother felt guilty for bringing the juice to his sibling. But his friend assured him that he wasn't at fault, as he hadn't known. He promised to help him capture his brother, who no longer seemed like family. When he got home, he found the heroine back at her place. She looked through his diary and found everything written down about them from the first day he saw her. He even wrote that he had decided to stay with her, even if it meant his death. She realized that if he didn't return to space, he would die. So she confirmed this with the lawyer, who told her that the hero had loved her for a long time, even before she loved him. She felt sorry for him and decided to tell him, but she couldn't get to him in time. The next day, he went to his friend's house, helped the investigators capture the murderer, and took him to the journalists. They asked what was going on, and the murderer, cold as ever, told them that now, the hero's beloved, the heroine, was killing herself, because he had invited her to her favorite restaurant now, using her brother's name. He also poisoned her drink. At that moment, he was about to kill her, but quickly decided to stop and ran to her. He didn't care about anything else and disappeared in front of everyone, leaving them terrified. In the restaurant, they were also shocked when they saw him, and suddenly he vanished. but he didn't care, and he hurried to her and took her to the hospital. He stayed by her side, treating her himself. Everyone who had been scared of him started distancing themselves, and they got even more frightened when they realized he had disappeared again. He took her to a quiet place, just as she had asked, and they spent their day together. Meanwhile, her family was watching the news and was in shock. When she returned, she told him everything was fine and promised to protect him. She did protect him from the journalists, but then investigators came for him. She went with him and they couldn't charge him with anything because technically he hadn't broken any laws. There's no law against disappearing suddenly. After that, he became very famous, and people started to love her again when they found out she had been wronged in the Yura case. Finally, the killer was sentenced, and he begged his father to get him out. But his father refused to help because he had learned that it was his younger son who had hurt the older brother. The father was devastated and told him that it was all his fault. He explained that from the beginning he wasn't normal. He remembered fighting with a young boy in school years ago and accidentally blinding him. In the beginning, his mother couldn't stand him, but later she warmly welcomed him. The heroine's family was complete again. But the thing was, there was only 1 week left before he had to leave. After the heroine realized he wanted to leave, she decided it was better for him to live far away from her, rather than be close and die. So they spent that last week together. On his last day, he said goodbye to the lawyer first, who was crying and told him that he really felt like his son, and he was bidding him farewell. He also said goodbye to the heroine, telling her that she looked beautiful in long clothes. Our hero was so jealous, and as she was about to talk to him, she said she looked good in everything. But suddenly, he disappeared. She broke down crying. 3 full years passed after that. During that time, she made up with Sumi, was very successful, and became much more beloved than before. As usual, her friend visited her shooting locations. This time, he noticed the hero among the audience. Suddenly, he disappeared. She ran around looking for him, crying. He found her and comforted her. When she returned home to get ready for the award ceremony that night, her parents came to check on her. They asked why she had cried in front of the crowd. She broke down, saying she missed him and needed him. They felt sorry for her but didn't know what to do. At the award ceremony, as soon as she appeared, everyone was more focused on taking pictures of her than anyone else. While being photographed, she suddenly saw everything stop. Our hero appeared. She couldn't believe she was seeing him. He took off his jacket and put it on her, saying, "Don't you look better like this?" At that moment, time returned to normal. Everyone saw them together and they were amazed that he had come back, only to disappear again in an instant. During the time he was gone, he had been trying with all his might to come back, appearing for just a few seconds at a time and then disappearing. The first time he appeared was when the heroine saw him while filming. The second time was with the lawyer, and he barely called out to him before disappearing. The third time was a bit longer, and this time he went to the killer, mocking him because he had lost everything. This made the killer even more furious. The fourth time was at the party, and so on. He kept appearing and disappearing, and now when he disappeared, she no longer felt sad because she knew that the next day he would be back in front of her.